You are most welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Real Impartation Moment on Tuesday Night Anatomy with Daniel Open. Today's section, we are still talking about the embryonic development of the gastrointestinal tract. My friends, in our two previous videos, I explained to you how the primitive gut tube will be differentiated into the foregut, the midgut, and of course the hindgut. Yes, just last week we looked at that of the development of the stomach, okay, as being one of the important structures which will arise from, of course, the foregut. My friends, today I want us to go a bit cranial. Look at the embryonic development of the food pipe. And my friends, whenever I talk about the food pipe, I'm talking about the oesophagus, okay, which of course in the adult we expect that it's about 18 up to about 25 centimeters long, okay. That of course, luminal structure, which we describe it as being a tubular organ, okay. So my friends, at the end of this meeting, I want you to appreciate how the oesophagus develops, okay. Yes, it's a derivative actually from the foregut, okay. That's what we'll be seeing, and so it makes sense that it's going to be endodermal, okay, in origin. Not only that, we also look at some developmental anomalies which may be associated with, of course, the oesophagus. Now, one thing I want you to become aware is that if you look at the oesophagus by way of its development, mainly one important thing I want you to become aware is that that portion of the foregut will have to undergo elongation. So there is going to be some portion of the development where that kind of elongation taking place. Not only that, there's going to be that proliferation, okay, so that there will be that kind of occlusion of the lumen in there. Later, there will be that kind of recanalization, okay, going to take place. And then importantly, after all these things, there will be that kind of histological changes going to take place. So my friends, at the end of this section, I want you to appreciate all these things. And so, without wasting my time, let's set the ball rolling, looking at what I have for you today regarding the embryonic development of the oesophagus. So today we are looking at the development Great. So now, if you look at the development of the stomach, of the oesophagus, it is pretty simple. Now, one thing is that the last time, okay, actually during the first meeting of this series, I told you that if you have the foregut, it is one guy which will be having certain out portions. Like for instance, it's going to have a respiratory bud, it's of course going to have the hepatic bud, it's going to have of course the ventral and dorsal pancreatic buds. Okay, so taking in that viewpoint, okay, how the development of the oesophagus is going to take place, my friends, I'm talking about the 4th week of intrauterine life. So keep it in mind, around the 4th week of intrauterine life, you see this happening. And I want you to draw the same thing wherever you are so that you can follow whatever concept I'm trying to convey to you. Now, this was what we talked about. Now, so if this is the dorsal aspect, okay, this is the posterior aspect, and this is the anterior aspect being the ventral aspect, then we see that the foregut, I'm not drawing the entire gut tube, the foregut will be having an outputting structure from the ventral aspect going downwards. And my friend, this is that guy that we call, of course, the respiratory bud or the lung bud, or you can also say respiratory diverticulum. So let me call this one. So that was why I told you that. So let's say this is the respiratory bud or the lung bud. Respiratory diverticulum. Okay, so now it means that this is the area, okay, where of course area of the foregut where the oesophagus is going to develop. Now, if I go a bit cranial, okay, to where this respiratory bud originated from, it's a part of the foregut. Something although is part of the foregut, but sometimes we call it the pharyngeal tube of the foregut. Pharyngeal tube, because that portion is going to give rise, okay, to the component of the pharynx. Okay, that's what we see. Now, so let me call it this cranial portion. This is the pharyngeal gut. Pharyngeal primitive pharynx. Pharyngeal. Okay, and then that portion over here, around this area, this is what is going to give rise to, of course, this oesophagus we are talking about. Now, and what did I say? It is happening around the 4th week of intrauterine life. The 4th week of intrauterine life. Okay, this is an important point I want you to become aware of. Now, beyond this, then what is going to happen? Around the same 4th week of intrauterine life, we see something happening. Now, I've told you that we have respiratory bag over here, okay, and of course, I have this portion going to form the oesophagus. So there should be some kind of septation, okay, so that we can separate this respiratory bag from, of course, this, oesophagus, primitive oesophagus. So that's what we are going to see. Let me use this one to be an arrow. Now, what is going to happen? Now, what is going to happen is that we will have this thing, okay, gradually. So, let's say I have this. Now, at the same time, now let me just go in this man. Let me talk about this one, and then I'll go to that of what will happen to the oesophagus. Okay, so around the 4th week, yes, around that time, after the 6th week of intrauterine life, we see something happening. Now, normally, we see something that oesophagus, okay, in the adult life, we see that ventral to it, we have what we call a trachea. Remember that this respiratory diverticulum will give rise to the lower portion of the respiratory tract, lower portion of the respiratory tract. So the trachea is part of it. So that one is ventral, it's in front. That's why we said this guy is coming in front. So that the dorsal portion of it is the one who is forming the oesophagus. Okay, I want you to appreciate that. So it means that there's going to be the trachea, okay, where is developing from the respiratory diverticulum, ventral, and then at the dorsal aspect we have the oesophagus developing. And then of course beyond that we see that from the trachea we are going to have the bronchi coming out of it. And so this is what I'm going to do. Let me say that from here, okay, this one will be elongated, okay, so that I will have this okay, so that's what we see. And then also this portion is actually the oesophagus. So there's ventral, okay, from anterior going to posterior, okay, and then I also have that of my oesophagus over here, which of course eventually it will get dilated at a point, okay, that was and then eventually the 4th portion of the stomach. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that there is a septation taking place over here. Okay, and my friends, this one, okay, is going to form your trachea, and then this is the oesophagus. And then eventually the stomach and of course the proximal portion of the duodenum will be formed over here. Okay, and so there's going to be a septation over here between of course the ventral aspect where we have the trachea and then the oesophagus. Some people will call it the tracheum. Okay, so it will be called the tracheum oesophageal septum. Now, this septum is extremely important For the reason that, now, most times, one thing we will see is that this oesophageal septum, okay, sometimes it may not really form completely, so that there's still a connection between the trachea and, of course, the esophagus. Something we call tracheoesophageal fistula. And it's one of the congenital anomalies that is associated with the development of the esophagus. Tracheoesophageal fistula. Now, one thing is that if you have about 3,000 up to about 4,500 live birth, you may have one individual, okay, suffering from some of these congenital anomalies of the, of the esophagus. I was telling you about that anomaly as we move along. Okay, so that's what you see. Now, as it continues, then the septation will have to get completely separated. Okay, so what's going to happen is that if I'm supposed to do it this way, or better still, let me continue in this manner. So let me say at this point we formed, okay, that is around the 4th all the way to the 6th week of intrauterine life. Okay, the key point over here is that there's that kind of septation taking place, and that's what I want you to know. And so continue from there, what is going to happen is that there's going to be that kind of complete separation. Okay, complete separation. And so what's going to be that complete separation? And at a point where there's going to be that complete separation, we see that whenever I talk about something derived, for instance, I talk about this lower respiratory portion, okay, from the trachea, we'll be having the bronchial bars also coming out. What you'll be seeing is that you see that there will be rings of cartilages around, there will be muscles and all that. My friends, one thing I want you to know is that if I say that it's derived from endoderm, what I mean is that the epithelial lining and, of course, the glands which are associated with it will be derived from, of course, this endoderm. But whenever I talk about the muscle, the smooth muscle, and then, of course, if I talk about that of the cartilages, then, of course, they will be derived mainly from the lateral plate mesoderm, precisely the splanchnoperic lateral plate mesoderm. Now, so let's look at this. So moving on, this is what I'll be seeing. Okay, I'll be seeing this. Let me just make it this way. Okay, gradually forming over here. Okay, and then that's the ventral aspect, and then my esophagus. And then let's say the stomach. These portions will also come out. Okay, so the point over here that I want you to know is that eventually the septation, okay, eventually gets broken away. Yeah, so that you have separates. For instance, I have this one to be my trachea. Okay, and then this trachea, this time around, you'll be seeing that there will be that kind of cartilages around, and of course, all those muscles will also be around over there. Okay, that's in the trachea. And then, of course, all these bronchial bars will also develop very well. So this or these are the bronchial bars. Okay, and then we now have our separate oesophagus at the dorsal aspect. And then your stomach, eventually the other things will come out. Okay, so that is what we find over here. Now, around what we call now I told you that the development of the esophagus, there's that kind of elongation. Now, around the 7th week of intrauterine life, with the descent of the heart and of all the lungs, these guys, okay, as they descend, go downwards, then what happens is that the esophagus also gets elongated. And its elongation may even take place, go on, even postnatally. It will still be elongating till we get that final one up to about 25 centimeter long, food pipe. Okay, that is what we'll be seeing. Now, here is where I'll take my time and then tell you some other stories about it. The first thing, what we see is that around the 8th week of intrauterine life. Now, another thing I told you about development of the oesophagus is that there's going to be some kind of histological changes taking place over there. So there will be some transformations which take place as far as the histology is concerned. Now, let me just take you there and then I bring it over here. Remember that the esophagus, just like most organs of the postpharyngeal gut, okay, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, including the esophagus, usually they present with 4 tunics. And from the lumen to the external aspect, okay, we have it. Now, let me just put them over here so that I will make my comments on. We'll be having something from the lumen to the external aspect. We'll be having mucosa. And whenever we talk about mucosa is made up of rhythms, okay, usually 2 things, but in the case of the organs of the postpharyngeal gut, they'll be made up of rhythms. And we're talking about what we call the epithelial lining. Epithelial lining. Okay, and then we'll be talking about the lamina propria. Okay, and then we're talking about muscularis, mucosa. Okay, this is what we see. And then below that we have what we call submucosa. And then we have what we call muscularis propria. Or you can see muscularis externa. And then finally, we'll be talking about adventitia, mainly for the oesophagus. But the caudal portion, okay, the intra-abdominal portion, just about 1.25 centimeters long, okay, will be covered by what we call mesothelium, so it will become serosa. Now, having seen this, let's look at the histological change. That's the key thing. And then, of course, we finish with whatever we have to know. The first thing. Now, my friends, during development, now I said that, these things is happening around the 4th week of intrauterine life. That's where we see the respiratory diverticulum. Essentially, I'm interested in the trachea, being the ventral portion, the dorsal portion being the esophagus, which is going to elongate around the 7th week of intrauterine life. And I said it's because of the descent, if you are asked, what is the stimulus for the elongation of the esophagus? By the descent of the heart and of course the lungs. That's number one. And then we said that it's going to end, okay, it's going to start around the 7th week of intrauterine life. But the septation, which we are calling it the tracheoesophageal septum, okay, that one is taking place around the 4th to 6th week of intrauterine life. So that beyond the 6th week of intrauterine life, we see them to be separate. Okay, separated all together. And I said that failure for this septum to fall completely, and for that matter, these two guys getting separated completely, will lead to something called tracheoesophageal fistula. One of the congenital, very common congenital anomaly associated with, of course, the development of the esophagus. Now, the next key point I want you to become aware is the histological changes. Now, the histological changes, now let's first begin looking at the epithelial lining. Now, the epithelial lining of the esophagus postnatally, largely, if you take a section of the esophagus, you will see that the epithelial lining is stratified, squamous, non-keratinized epithelium. Stratified, squamous, non-keratinized epithelium, for the reason that because some bolus of food, okay, we have to traverse, sometimes you don't feel chewing it so well, okay, the stress, sometimes it's so hot, you have to swallow it. And that's why the epithelial lining got to be robust. And so the robustness of the epithelial lining, okay, makes it become stratified, squamous, non-keratinized epithelium, because it's a wet area, so it's non-keratinized. That's what we see normally. But my friends, around the 4th week, okay, 6th week, whatever week, development of the esophagus, the epithelial lining is simple columnar epithelium with cilia. So we have ciliated simple columnar epithelium. That is what we find, okay, at the initial stages of the development of the stomach. That's what I want you to know. Now, due to rapid proliferation of the epithelial lining of the oesophagus, what we find out is that around the 8th week of intrauterine life, okay, we see large population of the ciliated cells. So maximum ciliated epithelium of the oesophagus is seen around the 8th week of intrauterine life. Why? Because of that rapid proliferation of the cells in the wall, okay, as far as the epithelial line is concerned. And that is that same guy which also ensures that the lumen, okay, now these guys, they are tubular organs. I'm trying to show that they are tubular organs. So they have a central cavity by way of lumen. Okay, that's one thing I want you to become aware of. And so because of that, because of the rapid proliferation, okay, those cells ensure that there's going to be that kind of partial occlusion of the lumen of the oesophagus. And I want you to become aware of that around the 8th week, the same 8th week of intrauterine life. The same 8th week where we see maximum simple columnar epithelium having cilia in there. I want you to become aware of that. That rapid proliferation is ensuring that the lumen, okay, gets a bit occluded, partially occluded. Yes, that's one thing I want you to become aware of. Okay, that is one thing. Now, my friends, around actually the 6th up to about the 12th week of intrauterine life, 6th up to about 12th week of intrauterine life, but mainly I would say beyond the 8th week of intrauterine life up to about the 12th week of intrauterine life, yes, there's still cilia. But one thing that we see is that the epithelial lining gets transformed. These are the historical changes I'm trying to tell you. It gets transformed from simple columnar with cilia to stratified columnar, also bearing cilia. Interestingly, now usually if there's stratification, you don't expect to see surface modification. But my friends, during the development of the stomach of the esophagus in intrauterine life period, mainly around the 6th week up to about the 12th week of intrauterine life, we see that the epithelial lining, okay, gets stratified. Yes, still bearing cilia. That's one thing I want you to become aware of. Yes. Now, something else happens. Now, remember that already there's that kind of partial occlusion, especially as I told around the 8th week of intrauterine life. Now, we need the esophagus to become, well dilated. We want to ensure that the lumen gets to its normal size. And that is why there will be that kind of creation of large vacuums. Okay, so assuming already there's that kind of, assuming there's the wall of the, of the esophagus, as I said, it will be having 4 tunnels. Okay, then I also have the other part over here. Now the lumen has become partially occluded. So it means that if it remains like that, then when you are swallowing food, there might be difficulty. There may be dysphagia and all that. And so what we want to do? What we want to do is that God in His own wisdom ensure that around, this I want you to become aware of it, around the 16th week of intrauterine life, around week 16 of intrauterine life, we see some large vacuums formed over here. Okay, so this one too, there will be large vacuums formed over there. And my friends, there will be that kind of confluence. So these large vacuums will coalesce to form larger areas. And so what will happen is that it will ensure that this whole place, okay, gets recanalized. These whole places get recanalized. So there's going to be some kind of recanalization, okay, of the lumen of the esophagus, beginning around the 16th week of intrauterine life. And I want you to become aware of that. So now the question is that failure of the recanalization, okay, of the lumen, okay, the partially occluded lumen of the esophagus will lead to what? And my friends, it is likely going to lead to something called oesophageal atresia. Oesophageal atresia. Now already I've mentioned the first anomaly that I mentioned to you, and that one was the tracheal oesophageal fistula. And then this time around, I'm talking about failure of the recanalization. That one will lead to oesophageal atresia. So the lumen will become so small, difficulty in swallowing. Okay. Now, oftentimes, as I told you, these congenital anomalies of the oesophagus is very common, especially in premature, babies. Yes, and when that happens, in about 60% of the cases of these premature individuals, my friends, what we find is that they will be associated with other congenital anomalies. Yes, and they will be associated especially with the heart, cardiac issues, especially with the septations of the heart, okay, like patent and also patent ductus arteriosus, for instance. It won't get converted to become ligamentum arteriosum. Yes, these are the things I'm talking about. It will also be associated sometimes the perforation of the anal opening by way of the cloacal membrane may not take place, so there may be anal issues. Imperforate, anus may happen. So they may be associated with other congenital anomalies. Because it's associated with the trachea, there may be tracheal issues. Okay, so I want you to become aware of all these, important areas as far as the congenital anomalies of the oesophagus is concerned. Now, so we've talked about one of them, the epithelial lining. Now, the epithelial lining doesn't stay the same. Now, remember that we got transformed from simple columnar epithelium with cilia to stratified columnar with cilia. Now, this time what has happened? There has been erosion, so to speak, ensuring recanalization because of the confluence of the vacuole, these large vacuoles. Okay, so that there's recanalization to prevent oesophageal atresia. So right now, it will come into your mind that right now the epithelial lining is missing. And that is when a new epithelial lining will begin to form. Yes. And so what is the normal adult epithelial lining? My friends, the answer is stratified, squamous, non-keratinized epithelium. So around the 16th week of intrauterine life, after recanalization, the epithelial lining is going to be stratified, squamous, non-keratinized epithelium. But this is where I want you to become aware of something. Something happens. Assuming this is the oesophagus, assuming this is essentially the oesophagus. I'm interested in the midpoint of the length of the oesophagus. So the midpoint over here, that's the point where the epithelial lining is going to get transformed from stratified columnar epithelium with cilia to stratified squamous, non-keratinized epithelium. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to say. It begins in this manner. This is how it goes. From the center, and then it goes in either way. Okay, so if this is oesophagus, the epithelial line is changing gradually from here to here and also from here to here, leaving the most extremities. So I'm talking about the most proximal portion and then the most distal portions of the, that of the oesophagus. So that over there, the epithelial lining is still ciliated columnar. So let's say these areas are still ciliated columnar. I want you to become aware of that. And so then the question is, at what point are they going to get transformed? In fact, from literature, some people may say that it may, end around the 23rd week, whatever, so many things. But actually, it may happen all the way till birth. Yes. And even postnatally, you have some individuals whose distal and proximal ends of the oesophagus still show ciliated epithelium, columnar epithelium. I want you to become aware of that. Yes. And so what I want you to know is that the transformation, it gets up to this point. So now the point is that at what point do we see that the proximal and distal ends actually going to change? When we expect that they are changed to become stratified squamous, non-keratinized epithelium? And my friends, your answer is when in the lamina propria, and that's where another histological change is going to take place over here, in the lamina propria. So when you have a epithelial lining, deep to it, we have lamina propria. And lamina propria essentially loose connective tissue areola. So we expect that this lamina propria, okay, will possess some glands in it at the terminal portion of the oesophagus. And there are some glands, we call them oesophageal cardiac glands. Oesophageal cardiac glands. So the main thing that is going to take place in the lamina propria is that we want to see something. What do we want to see? We want to see the formation of the oesophageal cardiac glands. Okay, so now once we have oesophageal, where are those oesophageal cardiac glands going to come from in the first place? Due to localized proliferation of the entire liner, will form these glands. Now, once we see the oesophageal glands form in the terminal portion, that's the distalmost portion of the esophagus, what we see is that these areas, it serves as a stimulus, so that these areas also get converted to become stratified squamous, non-keratinized epithelium. I want you to appreciate that. Yes. So that is that point. Now, if I look at these things, okay, by way of the submucosa, okay, by way of the muscularis mucosae, by way of the muscularis propria or externa, and of course the adventitia, they are connective tissue and muscles, which I told you they will be arising because the esophagus is a viscera, mainly derived from endodem. Then anytime viscera has to do with the splanchnic, so I'm talking about the splanchnopleurotic lateral plate mesoderm will give rise to these areas. But my friends, there's a thin line and there's a catch. I want you to become aware of that. That's the general point. But if I look at the muscularis propria over here, what I see rather is that, let me use this red to show it. The muscularis propria of the esophagus, okay, is actually having three areas. Now we have the proximal 1/3 portion, we have the middle 1/3 portion, and of course we have the distal 1/3 portion. So proximal 1/3, middle 1/3, and then distal 1/3. Where we see that the proximal 1/3, because very close to the oral cavity, is going to have, of course, stratified squamous, it's going to have skeletal muscle fibers. It's going to have skeletal muscle fibers, skeletal. What we see is that in the distal 1/3 portion, we have rather smooth muscle fibers. And then, of course, the intermediate region, by way of the middle 1/3, will be a mixture of the two. A mixture of the two. Smooth and skeletal muscle fibers will be there. That is what we see. Okay, now, one thing I want you to become aware is that as far as the smooth muscles are concerned, no doubt that they will be arising from the splanchnopleurotic lateral plate mesoderm. So then my question is, how about the skeletal muscles? And I want you to know that rather they will be arising from the mesoderm of the fourth and sixth pharyngeal arches or the pharyngeal apparatus. I want you to know that the mesoderm of the fourth and sixth pharyngeal apparatus will give rise to the skeletal muscle fibers, which you find in the upper 1/3 portion of the esophagus, and of course some in the middle 1/3 portion of the esophagus. Please appreciate these things. Now, one other thing too. Okay, now we talk about the upper oesophageal sphincter. Now, it's a very competent sphincter. Okay, begin actually at the level of the cricoid cartilage. Okay, because we have the cricopharyngeus muscle. So whenever I talk about the upper oesophageal sphincter, the contribution is mainly coming from the cricopharyngeus muscle. And I want you to know that crico, okay, of actually the inferior constrictor muscle. And then when I come to lower oesophageal sphincter, it's due to the thickening. Now, if you look at the, muscularis propria, muscularis externa, which are present with two layers, inner circular and then of course outer longitudinal muscle layers. Now, even if you look at the stoma usually will present with that of three layers, okay, inner oblique, middle circular, outer longitudinal. But generally, we expect that we see two layers, inner circular muscle arrangement and of course outer longitudinal muscle arrangement. And of course, in between them, there's going to be that kind of this nerve plexus and that nerve plexus between the two layers of the muscularis, okay, is something we call the myenteric nerve plexus, myenteric, or something which has an eponym, Oesophagus nerve plexus, okay, which I've told you already that these guys will be arising from migratory cells, okay, of the fourth layer of what we call the embryonic disc. And whenever we talk about the fourth layer, we are talking about the neural crest cells. Neural crest cells, they will come and migrate here to form these myenteric nerve plexus or the Oesophagus nerve plexus. Okay, now what I'm trying to say is that is the inner circular component which we're taking. So as far as the development of oesophagus is concerned, there's some kind of thickening also taking place. Not only from proliferation of the cells, but also the thickening of the inner circular layer of the muscularis externa. Okay, and that's the one we call, which forms what we call the cardiac sphincter, because it's meeting the stomach, okay, at that sphincter. And the beginning of the stomach, we have the cardia over there. So we call it cardiac sphincter. And that is also the reason why the glands that will appear at the distal portion, we call them oesophageal cardiac glands, but they are very close to the cardia of what we call the stomach. Great. Now the point is that if I look at the submucosa, don't forget that there will be another nerve plexus also coming from the neural crest cells migrating in here. And my friends, I know you know about that guy. And that nerve plexus, let me use red to tell you, okay, is a submucosal nerve plexus. Something also has an eponym, messiness nerve plexus. Okay, messiness nerve plexus. Okay, that is what we see. That one will also be migratory cells, actually from neural crest cells. I want you to appreciate that. Now, finally, adventitia. Whenever we talk about adventitia, it's connective tissue that we are talking about. Loose fibroelastic connective tissue. Now, from the cervical portion, okay, and then the thoracic portion of the oesophagus, where is the most part of the length of the oesophagus, what we see is that, they will have adventitia. So they will be glued to neighboring structures, okay, by way of the adventitia. But what we see is that for the serosa, we don't only have connective tissue, loose fibroelastic connective tissue, but my friends, also, we also have a single layer of simple squamous epithelium. So it forms what we call the mesothelium. Yes. So my friends, I want you to understand, these things. Okay. So today we looked at the development of the oesophagus, and remember that the stimulus is mainly begin at the 4th week of intrauterine life after seeing the respiratory bud. And of course, you go through all of them, and then you look at, the partial occlusion by way of the rapid proliferation, where it's going to take place, okay, mainly peaking around the 8th week of intrauterine life. And we said that later, these cells which were ciliated, simple columnar, will become stratified columnar, okay. Then we said that around the 16th week of intrauterine life, it's going to be that kind of, epithelial, histological change in the epithelium, okay, getting converted to become what we call the, to becoming what we call the stratified, okay, squamous, non-keratinized, okay, from the central region and going in either way, okay, going proximally and of course distally. My friends, I believe you find this meeting helpful. Now join me next week so that we go through this series that we have, development of the gastrointestinal tract. I'm very grateful for your time this evening. Have a good night, all of you, and may the good Lord richly bless you. Amen.